Okay, so as you can probably tell from the background, I'm not actually at my house right now, but you think that's gonna stop me from talking about RRR? Hell no. So I watched this movie yesterday, like right before my Pathfinder session. Watched it with a friend of mine, and he had never seen it before. I'd never seen it before. I believe this is my first time watching a Tollywood film. I've seen, to my recollection, two other Indian films I believe were both Bollywood. I've seen Om Shanti Om, and I've seen Three Idiots. Liked them both a lot, absolutely loved them, and I liked this about as much. Um, One thing I love, which is just kind of a production note. So the title of the film, RRR, stands for, I believe it's Rise, Roar, Revolt. It might be Roar, Rise, reversed. But it stands for that because they're like, we want to have a title that's, it's the same regardless of language. Like, you can look at it and go RRR in Chinese, Japanese, English, Indian, like, regardless, it's easy to follow. Apparently, though, it was also the working title from the film because the director, I believe his last name has an R. One of the main actors, one of it's either his first name or last name has an R, and the same for the other one. So RRR was just like, this is our collaboration, and they liked the title enough that they stuck with it. And I just think that's really cool. I dig that. So the basic plot of the film is this is when it takes place when India was under, it was essentially a colony of Britain, and a British couple, I believe it is a general and his wife, essentially kidnap an Indian girl from a village. So, a man from that village, his name is Beam, is tasked with going to save her. And this is a bad motherfucker. This is a strong dude. He's literally introduced having a chase scene with a tiger as he is trying to capture a wolf, and then a tiger shows up. So he goes from trying to outrun a wolf and leading it into a trap to doing it to a tiger. The tiger almost gets him and like breaks free of like its like the contraption. So he just like grabs this shit, and the tiger's like right close to him and is like just barely missing his face, and he's holding it together and like yelling at the tiger, and it's like, oh, this is a great way to introduce a character. So he is going from his village to, I want to say it was in Delhi, but I'm not 100% sure on the city, but I want to say it was Delhi, but he's going to get the girl back. The other main character, Raju, is, I believe he's Raju, but I think at other times he's also referred to as Ram or Rama. So he is a police officer, and he is tasked with trying to find this dude that has come into the city. And Raju was first introduced where he's being a good cop, where there's a demonstration, and it's like a guy got captured, and there's a bunch of rebels outside the gates, like slamming on this like barbed wire fence, or like this chain link fence. I don't remember if it was barbed wire, and it's like almost coming down, and all the soldiers and cops are just fucking terrified. It's like, we're about to die. We need backup now. And he's just standing firm, standing his ground. And one dude in the crowd throws a rock over the fence. So the superior officer's like, I want that man arrested and brought to me. So Raju he doesn't even just jump over the fence. He like hops onto a barrel, hops onto another barrel, jumps off of that barrel, goes into the crowd, armed with nothing but a nightstick, and is just bopping people. Bops this dude, bops this dude. He gets surrounded by a dude, just starts bopping him, gets out of it, and he just makes his way eventually to this dude, captures him, and then brings him back, and it's fucking awesome. So, Beam and Raju, the way they meet each other, because of course they end up meeting each other and become best friends, not knowing that this dude is a cop and I should be wary of him, and this is the guy that I'm tasked with trying to find. The way they meet is there's like a train accident. It's like a train explodes and it falls into the water, and then the water's on fire, and there's this kid in the middle of the water surrounded by all this fire, and Raju is on top of a bridge, and Beam is like on the kind of like on the shoreline, and somehow, despite them being like probably like 100 meters or so apart, they're able to see each other and wordlessly communicate. So Beam ends up going up onto the bridge, and Raju is there. He's on a horse with a rope. Beam ends up getting on a motorcycle and like ties the rope to him. So what they do is they get enough speed and they both jump off the bridge and use their momentum to like do this. So Beam goes down, grabs the kid, and throws him up to Raju as Raju's coming. And then Raju takes this flag that he's been holding and tosses it to Beam. So then Raju gets the kid and then just throws him, and the kid goes flying. And there's so many scenes in this movie where someone or something, sometimes both, is just flying through the air. One of my favorites is a scene when you're getting close to the climax of the movie, of this 3-hour fucking masterpiece, where a dude is in a car and they kind of like hit a tree, and then the car goes flying into the air, and the dude goes flying into the air, and then there's a gun that's flying beside him, and then he just grabs the gun, aims it at another car, shoots the car, which of course then goes flying into the air, and it's great. But so Beam grabs the kid, throws him, and the kid goes flying, and then he lands safely. And Beam, now swinging towards the flames, wraps himself in the flag, and then he's untouched by the flames when he comes back. And then Raju grabs his arm, the two of them lock arms with each other, and then you get the title card of the movie, which is now, I don't know, maybe like 20, 30 minutes into the film. Like, oh, this is cool. You get a nice montage of the two of them being friends, and then just some kind of bro shenanigans. At one point, they go to a party, and there's a bunch of, British assholes that are being super racist. So, of course, we have a dance-off, and the dance-off is great. The song won Best Original Song at the Oscars. It's really fun. There's a lot of energy. There's a point when essentially the dance-off is done, and it's just the two of them still going. And then they lock eyes with each other, and they kind of have that look like, I can keep going. Can he keep going? Oh, he can keep going, but I'm going to outlast him. So they just have a dance-off between the two of them. And then Raju sees that the girl named Jenny that Beam really likes is like, I hope he, like, come on, man, come on, like, really hoping that he wins. And then Raju's like, okay, I'm going to take the L so my guy can win. Like, yeah, it's awesome. Like, what a fucking homie. So that shit happens. It's not long after that Beam finds the girl, Molly, that he is trying to recover. He's trying to save. And he finds her, and he's like, okay, in like a day or two, I'm going to enact my plan so I can save her. His plan is he takes an armored truck and has one of his homies, drive it into the governor's compound. The truck spins around, and it's revealed that the cargo in the back is a bunch of caged animals, like the tiger from earlier in the film, like a fucking leopard, several like elk or some kind of deer thing with antelopes. Like, I don't know if it was an elk, if it was a gazelle, it could have been both. I'm not exactly sure. You get some wolves, no elephants, but all kinds of shit, and they just release it. So you've got a bunch of soldiers fighting tigers. At one point, I think a leopard like jumps onto Beam, and he kind of like grabs it and then throws it at another dude. There's a scene where a tiger lunges at him, and then he just like gets on his knees and slides under the tiger as it just goes over him. And it was wonderful. There's fucking fire everywhere. There's this one asshole who gets his fucking arm stabbed by a fucking like gazelle antler. And Raju, who, mind you, at this point in the movie was poisoned by a snake bite and thought he was dying until Beam was like, hey, this is my friend, I gotta do what I can to save him, is able to like come up with a cure. The way Raju enters the compound, of course, is he is driving a carriage drawn by 4 stark white horses, and the carriage is on fire. So then he jumps out of that, confronts his boy, and now they're like, okay, you're the, like, no doubt, no questions, you're the person I'm trying to catch, and you are the cop that's trying to catch me. So they start fighting while also fighting tigers and shit, because that is still going on. There's a point where Raju, who is fire, and he grabs a fucking torch, and Beam, who is water, and he grabs a fucking hose, and they just start spinning toward each other and like smacking each other with the fire and water. And it's really fun, and it's really cool. After that, Beam is captured, he is arrested, and the governor is going to make an example out of him. It's around this time you get Raju's backstory, and that the reason he is working as a cop and a soldier is he is trying to get in really good with the British so he can become in charge of weapon shipments to deliver to his village that was attacked by the British, who killed his mother, killed his little brother, and technically Raju killed his father because his father was like strapped with grenades and shit, and so he shot that to blow it up on like his dad's orders. But essentially also kind of responsible for killing his dad. He's like, it's partly revenge, and also this is what my dad wanted. He wanted to make, he's like, look at what we were able to do with just one weapon. If you can arm all of us, we can fight and we can revolt. This is what you have to do. No matter what you have to do, get us weapons. So that's why he's like, this is my best friend, and I love this man. I know he is trying to save one of his own, but I can't help him. Then you get to a scene where, oh, also, before I talk about that, the governor has this recurring phrase where he's like, hey, you know, take care of this person. And then, like, a soldier pulls out a bullet, and he's like, whoa. You know how, like, they talk about bullet economics. Like, do you know how much a bullet costs? Excuse me. Like, you know, it was made in an English factory and came on a British vessel, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. It's worth this much. And you're gonna waste it on one of them? No. Find another way. You know, asshole. So that gets brought up a couple times, and then Raju's father in the backstory also brings that up. He's like, you know how much a bullet costs? I've heard what they've said. To them, we're not even worth a bullet. So I don't want any of you using live ammunition, actual bullets, until I know you won't miss a shot. Because that's what they're worth. One of their lives. And that's pretty fucking metal. I liked that a lot. But you get to a scene where Beam is to be tortured. Like, he is like to be, get the lash, he'll get the scourge. And they're like, we want him on his knees, begging for forgiveness for what he dared to do. And so, you know, Raju's got the whip just... And then at one point they get a different whip. There's like this barbed wire whip. There's like wraps around Beam and is like tearing at his flesh. And like, it's super violent. And there's a point, I think it's specifically when the second whip gets brought out, where Beam just starts singing. He's like, I am like, not only am I not gonna fall, and there's points where like he gets close to falling, but his knees don't quite touch because he's not gonna let them bring him down. And it's a really epic scene. Now, granted, it's like, I mean, I don't want to say like, yeah, seeing a man get fucking whipped is epic, but just the, I will not fall, staying resilient and just like singing the entire time. It's really cool. And I'm also like, okay, there's a part where like he's got his arms like this and his feet are chained together and he's being whipped. And like, this is, I know Christ imagery when I see it, and I've seen Man of Steel, unfortunately. But it's like, I know that kind of shit. I'm vibing with this a lot, and like seeing him get whipped, all the people in the back because of course they're like, hey, you know, this man is gonna be whipped and made an example of. We want everybody. They start fucking rushing the stage. Like, it's super epic. Not long after that, essentially Raju is like, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up a situation because I've now been promoted. Instead of doing what I'm supposed to do with the weapons, I have to save my friend. So I'm gonna save him, and I'm gonna help him get the little girl. And he does, and part of that escape is when people go flying out of cars, and it's awesome. So Beam and Molly escape. Raju is put in jail. There's a part where the governor is talking to like his underlings, and he's like, all right, so like, how are you treating him? How are you feeding him? Like, oh, we're only feeding him once a week, you know, just enough so that he's barely clinging to life. He looks like shit. And then you see Raju just doing fucking pull-ups in his cell. And all I can think of is like, dude, this is literally Iroh from season 3 of Avatar. Man is in his cell and just working out and getting fucking ripped. This is fucking cool. And then he gets put in solitary confinement, and then he's like in this tiny hole, and there's bars, and he like grabs onto the bars, and he's still kind of like working out a little bit. Like, that's fucking sick. But Beam is trying to escape with Molly. They kind of narrow down, like, this is probably where he is. We can find him. But Beam ends up finding, I think her name was Sita, which is Raju's fiance, because coincidence, who tells Beam about Raju's history, and he's like, oh my god, this is what my friend was trying to do, and like, he like did all this, and then he saved my life. I gotta go back for him. So then you're getting to the climax of the movie where he goes to save his friend, and he breaks him out, but Raju's been beaten, like he can't use his fucking legs. So Beam picks him up and puts him on his shoulders, so Raju is just sitting on his shoulders, and they start fucking doing a prison break, and then Raju just gets a gun, and it's just fucking glocking people, and then he gets another gun, and he's just dual wielding, like doing crazy trick shots, while Beam is just running like a madman. It was great. Then they escape to a forest where they find like a statue of a goddess and a bow and arrow on her. So Raju, now getting his legs back, is just, well, also because Beam like does some like use another natural remedy, so of course he gets his legs back. And Raju's just fucking Rambo sniping dudes, like using like flaming arrows, while Beam just goes into the water like a fucking crocodile, and just bringing dudes down and beating the shit out of them. At one point, Beam picks up a motorcycle and then just starts using it as a club. There's a scene where Raju like jumps into the air, uses a bow and arrow, snipes a dude off a horse, and then as he's spinning around in the air, the horse just gallops and he lands on the horse, and without it breaking stride, he just goes. So after they massacre a whole fuck ton of soldiers, like, it's time. So they go back to the general's compound because fuck this guy. End up, I don't remember how they did it, if they threw it or if they drove it, but essentially they get a flaming motorcycle into a room full of TNT, which explodes. The governor's wife dies, but she's awful, so fuck that person. And then they get the governor, and he pulls out a gun, but they like shoot his arm and they like pin it to the wall. And then Raju gives the bullet speech, because of course he does. He's like, this is the value of a bullet, blah, 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 blah. Beam aims the gun, points it at the governor, and he's like, no, no, no. And then, you know, they shoot him. You get this really great slow-mo shot of the bullet, like, doing exactly what it needs to go, and straight through the general's heart, and the blood spatters onto this symbol of the golden British crown. It's, you know, the sun never sets on the British Empire, and it gets spattered with the dude's blood. And then it ends with a giant dance sequence. That's what happens in RRR. There were times watching this movie, I know I thought it during the bridge rescue scene. I know I thought it when they were fighting tigers and throwing leopards at people. I probably thought it during the climax as well. I probably was also thinking when people just go flying randomly all the time. I felt like I was watching a live action version of Symphogear. Just the insane, over the top bullshit and how fun it was. I was talking to a buddy of mine, like right after I saw the movie, just gushing about how much fun I had. And he had said something. He was like, it's amazing how, like, the kind of insane, dumb shit you can get away with as long as it's fun. Because there's times where the CG, like, looks fine in this movie, and then there's other times where I'm like, I'm not so sure about that. But I didn't care. Because even when the CG is kind of spotty, it's for really fun shit and really fun ideas. So I'm like, yeah, does that tiger look super realistic? No. Also, he just fucking did like the Matrix bullet dodge pose while sliding as a tiger went flying over him. Do I care that the tiger didn't look realistic? No. I cared that this was really fucking fun. And this movie, while still, I think being an interesting drama film, with especially with Raju and like getting into his backstory and why he is the way he is and what he's doing and his conflict of I need to arm my people, but I can't do it at the cost of this man, is genuinely really good shit. But the set pieces are so fun. It's so insane. It's so creative. If you have not seen this movie, and it's 3 hours, it is not a short film, you are doing yourself a disservice if you have not seen this movie. I feel like it's the kind of film that demands to be experienced at least once. And if you didn't care for it, if you're like, I don't want to watch that again, that's completely fine. That's your opinion. You are more than entitled to your opinion. But please, watch it at least once. I can't say that you won't be disappointed. I can't guarantee that you won't be disappointed. But I feel like you won't be disappointed. You'll probably have just a really good fucking time. Do I have anything else I want to say? I don't think so, but watch Symphogear. Watch RRR.